Hello, and welcome to Rocket Fuel, your daily update of everything that's happening in the Rocket Pool community. My name is Wack. Today is April 8th, and today's episode is going to cover some sad news about Houston, news about SmartNode version 2, and a whole bunch of other things. So let's get started.
10, 9, ignition sequence start, 6.
Okay, we're going to begin with the sad news from Langers about the Houston upgrade. So on the summary of last week's community call, we said that the team were going to have a go, no-go meeting, and they were going to decide on what's going to happen with Houston. Well, here Langers gives an update on that meeting, and he says, "Hey everyone, on Friday the team met for a go, no-go decision on the Houston deployment to the Haleshki test network and timeline review. From this meeting, we felt that further testing is required of the upgrade transition and that we should ensure adequate community testing time. Consequently, we're moving the Houston release date from May 6th to May 27th. We feel it's important to test the transition thoroughly so that the dress rehearsal release goes as well as can be. Please bear in mind this is very little impact on our ability to scope and start developing Saturn. Many thanks, Rocket Pool." So reading between the lines and from what Langer said during the community call, what the team wanted to happen is, the audits are all done, the information, well, almost all done, I think, and everything is set to go. The only issue was by having the testnet, having Houston go onto Haleshki now wouldn't give enough time for the community to kind of test through everything. And what they wanted was there to be a bit more time for the community to test through everything and, for the Immunify bounties and stuff like that to happen. And the reason for that was because they would make sure that everything goes as well as possible on the actual release itself. Now, there are going to be some downstream effects from this, and it's a shame that this has happened, truly, because, that May 6th date was already further in the future than people wanted. However, that's sadly the reality of deploying upgrades to smart contracts. The last thing you want to do is there to be any kind of bug or vulnerability that then needs to be rushed to be fixed. So as disappointing as it is, if the team feel like they need a little bit more time for testing, then it makes sense to push it by 3 weeks. And I'll be honest, when I saw this, I was disappointed, but there's not much we can do, right? Like, the problem is that so many other things are kind of dependent on Houston going through to get them going. Like Nick and Wanda were talking about NodeSet's launch and how they're hoping for it to be the end of July. Well, now that's just become the middle/end of August instead, because Houston's 3 weeks later. They can't begin their audits until Houston goes live, and they can't deploy until audits are all done and they've tested their software as well. So these are the kind of things that we've been waiting for. We kind of really want that those dominoes to start falling for Rocket Pool. With protocol level whale marriages, NodeSet launching, and then all the other stuff that's going to come with Saturn later, like mega pools, etc. But what the issue is basically now that's everything's been pushed back by 3 weeks. So I'm just hoping that the NodeSet guys don't lose their audit window and the downstream effects that come from all this kind of stuff. So that was a little bit of disappointing news, but I can kind of understand that we want everything to be safe. But I won't lie that I was quite disappointed about that. In some good news, however, just to show you that things for the Houston release are going well, and everything's kind of I was going to say on track, but not quite on track, but they're happening at least. Is here Joe put out this post saying that version 2 is now feature complete and has been updated with the latest version 1 Houston codes. What a trip. Patches says YOLO merge it. So what is this version 2 that Joe is talking about? So for those of you who don't know, Joe is the SmartNode stack developer at Rocket Pool. The SmartNode is the software that almost all Rocket Pool node operators use to run their validators. And Joe basically took about part version 1 of the software. That's the one that we've all been using, and has now put together a version 2 of the software that is based has different architecture and a lot of different mechanisms for operation, and it also removes a lot of the tech debt that version 1 carried forward. So, this was a complete rewrite. I think it was like, hundreds of thousands of lines of code, which is really, really cool to see. So, congrats on getting that done, Joe. I think, like, Joe was one of those people who wanted to get it out so we could test Smart Node Stack version 2 alongside Houston. So, I don't know what Joe's, perspective on the go no go was, but Joe finished his part of the work, which is kind of cool. So he explains the patches. He says at some point we'll have to make a version 1 branch that stays behind while it's still maintained, and version 2 will become the master. Anyway, the last step was a special patches request. Remove the watchtower and shove all of it onto Node. So there's only one container. And Patches says, I'm going to rewrite it too. And Joe says, woo! And then there's like cat spray bottle gif. And he says mostly just the interminable for loop. I'm not sure what that means. And then Joe says, well, whatever you do it to version 2, so I'd have to merge it again. And Patches says there'll never be a version 3. And he says blowing snow. So yeah, version 2 is done. Hopefully we'll be getting that out for testing to the community as well. I don't think the Smart Node Stack has to go through any auditing really, because I'm not sure what the auditing procedure for that is, so I won't claim to know. But if I remember correctly, it doesn't undergo auditing, so hopefully we can get our hands on it soon. Okay, next we had this screenshot that Invis shared, and Invis of course works for Bitfly, who are the team that make the Beacon Chain website. Well, he shared a screenshot of the Beacon Chain landing page, and there was a banner that says Rocket Pool. It says join the biggest decentralized home staker community and earn more yield. And it says a roughly 40% more yield than solo stakers. So here we have a banner ad for Rocket Pool on the homepage of the Beacon Chain website. Invis says, I forgot this was a thing. So this was funded by the GMC, of course, and we're going through a test with the Beacon Chain website to see what kind of responses we get and see if it makes any difference. But it looks like the GMC is going to start funding different avenues of advertising and trying to get the word out there, which is pretty cool. But the people already started talking about how the numbers might not make sense and how it might be better to change how we present the information, which of course there's always going to be the case. I went to the website and I couldn't actually see it come up. I was getting some other bar, like this huge win ad instead. So I'm not sure what that is, but like guys, like we need Rocket Pool there all the time. So I couldn't show you guys in practice, but there was a screenshot of course from Invis. So thanks for sharing that, Invis. Okay, next we've got some news that could potentially be quite big for Rocket Pool, especially once we get mega pools. So ETH Dreamer is working on the max effective balance EIP, and he basically said that they're having meetings. I think they're up to call number 5 now, and he says Lido joined the call this morning and advocated for execution layer triggered consolidations. That's looking more bright. So what does this mean exactly? So right now with mega pools, like you have to leave and restart your validators under the mega pool contract, and I guess the idea was that you'd have max EB at that point as well, so you'd be able to just throw it all into one. And what's happening with this is it might be a little workaround that we can work out, because it might be that you can just sign the transaction from like your withdrawal address or an arbitrary address potentially to get your validators moved over to mega pools without having to withdraw them in this consolidation phase. So with execution layer triggered consolidations, it looks like we might be able to get a little boost for Rocket Pool, and it'll just make that churn a lot easier, especially for spending gas. So ETH Dreamer has been kind of talking about this, and Jasper's saying like, what can we do to help? Well, ETH Dreamer, Phil knows as well, is working on this, and he says, hey all, I'm not sure who'll be the right person to join this call, but someone who understands the Rocket Pool infrastructure well to participate, and also raise concerns related to EIP 7251. That's the max effective balance EIP, and says with the design choices for that. It says we want to make sure this EIP doesn't negatively break things for you on the lecture. There's a breakout call happening next week, and if a rep from Rocket Pool can take a look at some already discussed notes on calls, please vote for a time to schedule this call here. and says the TM issue is located here, and then tagged Joe. So Joe says, hey, Phil got your DM earlier. Team is just getting on it now. I'll bring it up with them at our stand up today. Stay tuned. It says Australian times. And then Langer said, hey, Phil, thanks for the heads up. I've answered the poll for times and will get up to speed. So Nick and Wanda then from Notice that we're talking about Max EB as well. So I guess they might join that call also to kind of present their opinions. But hopefully there might be a way to basically move your validators from regular validators the way they are now onto onto megapool validators with max effective balance CIP all in one, which would be really cool. So here's Phil again, just letting people know that if you want to attend breakout call 5, this is the way to do it. Okay, next we had some news about the community discussion of submitted applications. So this thread goes live with when the applications come in and people kind of ask questions back and forth, and for the last few months they've started giving feedback. Well, this time no one was really doing that except no one was really doing that. The thread was just empty. So Schifrin kind of lit a fire under people's behinds and asked for some feedback. So Ramana was the first to give some feedback, gave a quick scores about what he thinks should and shouldn't be funded. Pateris did a good job of summarizing the different applications and saying what should and shouldn't be funded as well. I won't go through each one. You can read it if you want. Wooden Chip, of course, as well. Waldorf too. So I just wanted to give a huge shout out to these people, like taking time out and looking at these applications, because the GMC really does well. I can only speak for myself and other people who I know have talked about this, but the GMC members, who I've talked about this, really do love this bit of feedback that comes from the community, and we definitely take into consideration when we're making our decisions. So thank you so much for doing that, and I think it just adds another layer of information, right? Like the GMC has at disposal, and we're always happy to ask questions as well when we want things explained. But some of this, some like Pateris here took a lot of time to write basically paragraphs for some of these, and Val of course wrote multiple paragraphs for some of these, which was absolutely amazing. So thank you to everyone who took the time to read the applications and give the feedback. Okay, while we're talking about the GMC, the next round, the previous round just closed on April 7th, and the next deadline is on May 7th. So the GMC is going to go to that regularly scheduled cadence now, because we have passed the vote on the forum. On the snapshot vote, and we're going to be much better with the cadence of the grants now, which is really cool to see. Okay, next we had a little bit of a panic from Patches here. He says, oh, god damn it. And then Joe, guess what? And then Lee said, if you're talking about tokenomics, we already know. Lee was saying, if you were going to say that tokenomics are broken, we already know. He says, no, it's nothing like that. We just have to ask the ODAO to turn off rolling records. And he says, Valdorf, get the whip ready. So what are rolling records, you might be asking? So rolling records is a way of calculating the tree generation, and it happens on a day by day, I think even epoch by epoch basis, that the ODAO kind of calculates the rewards every few minutes or every day. I'm not sure of the exact time. I think it's every epoch, every 6 minutes. And what happens then is, as soon as the reward period goes live at the end of the month, it's really quick for them to calculate the rewards for that month. And here Patches is saying that they're going to have to turn off rolling records, and that Val is going to have to talk to all the ODAO members to make those at the end of the month instead, which can take couple of hours, up to a couple of hours really. So what was going on over here? Well, there was a thread, of course, that's been going for a while, the rewards tree preview thread, and people started talking about the spec and where there's clarifications or not clarifications. And Val was kind enough to summarize the information, and he said that there was a few things that were going on, and what had happened is that there was a single attestation that wasn't being counted properly. And it says the Watchtower is doing what we want, and related to consensus spec change, the rocket pool tree gen spec should be explicit. So there were a couple of comments there about how things should work. So if you are interested in figuring out what's going on, definitely go and check out the rewards tree preview thread where Joe was calling out patches for nice detective work. So yeah, go and give that a read if you're interested in it. Okay, next we got some feedback from Samus for Nick and Wanda's node set report. So he said, I finished going through the report and added my thoughts to a Google sheet. The summary of that is below. So he says there's some things that we agree on. This is about like how Lido are limiting their CSM, about how we should be careful applying universal variable commission. It says about how as we lower our bonds, we increase leverage, and how we need forced exits to protect our ETH because of that. And it says we should seek legal counsel on the implication of a burn and seek alternative solutions if it's deemed to increase the risk of classification as security. It says hopefully we can make some compromises or engage in productive discussions on potential solutions and come to a relatively unified proposal. Atomize RPIP votes where possible, like sublinear bonding. And then he says there's some issues of that need to be discussed or potential disagreements. And then it says like what is community sentiment around existing tokenomics model? How accepted is it? Maybe do a poll. Expect it to be widely known and widely rejected. It says clarification of misunderstandings around proposed tokenomics valuation models, DAO. And then it says RPL requirement also holds back solo home node operators who might really want to switch. And then centralization factors and how they might work. What about Ethereum centralization? Concerns about stake. And then how will we know appropriate RPL requirement collateral and RPL emissions? Like we need to figure out how to like tweak those variables. That's not in a way that's arbitrary, which is what some people think of it is right now. And what do people think about the burn or distributing rewards? And how does NodeSet feel about zero burn and all RPL value capture going to the people with the voter share? How would value accruing wrapper look like? And is that better than the Samus and Val's proposal? And then a bunch of other things here as well. And then there's areas of strong disagreement as well, such as the impact of RP30 and like and how much that weight is given in their paper, and explicitly state the assumptions around the existing tokenomics, and then other things as well. So if you want to read that, you can either read the summary that Samus has over here, or you can read the full Google Doc. And then there were some other discussions going on as well, but Wander and Nick have not replied to this yet. So maybe they'll pop by at some point and try to share their perspectives. But also, the community is kind of engaging with this idea of direct value accrual to RPL and what form it should take. So there's 3 ideas at the moment. One of them is to increase the share that goes to voters. So the idea is that people will still stake ETH and RPL together, and those who stake ETH and RPL together will get a slightly bigger chunk of the pie rather than more of it going to the buyback and burn. And that will then align interests between people who hold RPL for staking purposes rather than just speculatively. The buyback and burn, of course, is use all the ETH that comes through as well, not all of it, but like a chunk of it that comes through as income to buy RPL on the secondary market and burning it. And then the third one is this interesting idea. It's called providing liquidity. So buy back and provide liquidity. So the way that works is you just use the ETH, right? You wouldn't buy any RPL, but you'd provide one-sided liquidity on something like a balancer pool. And what you do there is you just add ETH on the buy side, so it adds liquidity. And if the pool gets too big, then you can withdraw any RPL that you've accrued in that and just burn that as well. So it's really interesting. So Val kind of wrote this table here. He says tokenomic rework, vibe check, surplus revenue distribution, and then kind of talking about what the benefits of each mechanism are. What market does this address? What is this building on top of? And what's its utility in DeFi? And so far, 39 people have voted. You can choose different options that you like. Either, do you want to focus more on increasing voter share? Do you want to increase more on buyback and burn? Or do you increase more on liquidity positions? And the results so far are that people most strongly favor buyback and burn at 64%. 46% say that they want to increase the share to the voters, and 46% say that they want to increase they want to set it up as liquidity providing. Then we've got some feedback here. So Phil's says, keep in mind, if you vote for voter share, there's no such thing as fee switch. Value of RPL won't be supported. So Epinef says, I don't want to see that comment go unchallenged as the sole comment. The voter share directly gives rewards to staked RPL node operators and indirectly supports the price of RPL. Buyback and burn directly supports the price of RPL and indirectly gives rewards to staked RPL node operators. The no fee switch is not accurate because both are essentially fee switches, in my humble opinion. But here, Long for Wisdom gave actually a really good point that I want to read out for you all. So he says, I want to make a short comment on buyback and burn from my experience at Maker. For those of you who don't know, for many years, Maker operated with a surplus auction and burn system. So Maker would buy back the MKR token and burn it. This is from my experience. Views on the burns seemed to fall into two camps, either very pro for its simplicity and elegance, or very con given actual effect. Burn was one of the elements that attracted me to Maker in the first place. It's a powerful meme, started off very much in the pro camp and was always exciting when the burn was happening. He said, however, over time, I moved over to the con camp for the following reasons. Number one, in effect, it's very dependent on the amount of funds going to the burn. To get effects that overwhelm the market noise, you need significant funding. So in the best case scenario, that could be thousands of ETH of burning a year, or tens of thousands of ETH of burning a year. However, if we started the burn today, it would be like hundreds of ETH a year, or like low thousands per year, which is, might not overcome that noise, like Long for Wisdom is saying. And this is wasteful. There are many things that Maker could have done better with that money instead of burning it, i.e. dev work, expanding products, etc. And then third, he says it rewards passive investors in the token equally to active members of governance, which always felt bad. Governance is a non-trivial cost in attention over time. So those are the reasons why Long for Wisdom, LFW, disagreed with the burn after a while. So he says, if you must have a burn-like mechanism, I strongly believe buy and provide liquidity is strictly better. You get much of the benefit from the buy pressure in addition to reliable liquidity that stabilizes the price over time as it grows further. You can use this liquidity to help absorb token mints in the future if required. Personally, I'd lean towards surplus commission going to buy an LP. Both this and the non-zero voter share provide tangible and quantifiable benefits. Having some amount going to voters allows operations like NodeSet to operate, as well as recognizing their preference for governance activity over passivity. The buy and LP returns value to the token in a way that still benefits the DAO collective. As a collective, make a switch to buy an LP as a part of Rune's endgame plan is one of the few parts that I view as unequivocally positive. If you're interested, you can look at some stats here, and then there's a dashboard that has Maker's buyback and how it works. So, how much liquidity is owned, and they have $152 million of liquidity, and that's 20,700 Maker tokens basically, and 76 million DAI. So there's a whole lot going on there, and it looks like it's happening like all the time, where there's sells and buys happening through this. Yeah, this is the initial Maker supply was 1 million. Maker buyback progress. Yeah, so if that's something you want to look into, definitely go and check out this discussion. I still haven't voted on this because I'm not sure what I'm kind of being convinced by Long for Wisdom's points. Like, I was very much about the buyback and burn, but in talking to Val and listening to what Long for Wisdom is saying, I do like the idea of the providing liquidity with the ETH, especially because if the pool gets big, then you can just take out the RPL that you're owed, and you can burn that point instead. But it's definitely an interesting idea. Okay, next we're going to be talking about Stake Rocket Pool. Regex Buster here has put together the latest DeFi report, and he says that if you want to get good APRs, the best thing to do here is Balancer with our ETH and Rapid ETH is paying maxes out around 20% APR, and that's through a collaboration with Flat Money. Is helping the IMC incentivize this pool. So there's some really good rewards that you can have right there. And it says that DeFi opportunities on layer 2s are many. Whatever your favorite layer 2 is, you can start earning ARB, Optimism, Balancer, or Aura rewards. And some of these numbers are going to 16%, or and some are around that 4 or 5% as well, 6%. And then on mainnet, you can get 10%, 12% on PancakeSwap. As well, but that Balancer pool this week is the best one, like up to 20.72%. And they said that you just be careful, it's risky. So Flat Money replied by saying, we have a few more options you can add for our ETH on base. So there's Aerodrome that's paying out 10.6%, and the Beefy Vault is paying out 12.9% basically, which is really cool. So if you're interested in that, of course, check the links in the post, and you can get more details from there. But that's really cool. Okay, we're talking about some other stuff now. Here we have this post saying that the Bitcoin Archive shared information that Genesis have finished selling their Grayscale Bitcoin. So their GBTC, they've finished selling it $2.1 billion. So that will potentially remove a lot of sell pressure on Bitcoin. And we've already seen it start impacting the markets here, with Bitcoin moving up to nearly $72,000, which is just a few percent off its all-time highs. ETH has moved strongly today as well, actually more strongly than Bitcoin, up to $3,600. And RPL actually outperformed both of them today by going up nearly 9% to $30.56. The Bitcoin ETH BTC pair is not looking that good though. It looked like it hit kind of like a double bottom, and now we're going to see if it bounces from here or if it breaks down. But I thought I would let you all know that it might be that Bitcoin might drag up everything else over the next few weeks, especially with the halving coming in less than 2 weeks now. Okay, I've got this post, the comment here about saying correct the comment about Hasu and Athena. So on the last episode that I did, which was on April 3rd, I talked about how Hasu was defending Athena, and that's partly because he was invested in Athena. That was my bad. As far as I know, Hasu has not invested in Athena, and I guess he just likes the idea of the project. So I'm sorry about that. So I'm making a correction. And finally, some of you know that I haven't recorded an episode for the last few days, and part of the reason for that was because we had some sad news in the family, with a member of my family passing away over the weekend, and it was really sad the way that it happened, and it was a really tough time for our whole extended family. So I took away a few days from making Rocket Fuel episodes, but I'm back home now, and here I am. So I hope you all had a better weekend than I did. But thanks all for watching and listening and being part of the Rocket Fuel community. And see you all tomorrow. Bye.